In this video, we'll add in flying things in our scene. We'd like to think maybe they're animated bugs, but really what we need are some specks flying around to kind of bring the jungle to life a little bit. This would be a nice way to introduce some simple particles in here. I'll start out in a top view and press Z to zoom extents. What I'm going to show here is particle flow in 3ds Max, an event-based particle system. I'll go on the Creation tab on the Command panel, and down under Geometry, I'll choose Particle Systems, and in here is PF Source. There's two types of particles, particle flow and standard particles. Standards are not event-driven. Particle flow are. I'll click on PF Source and click and drag a particle flow source over the scene. I'll make this, dragging up for the height, a box, and you can change the icon type if you'd like here in the drop-down. I'll make sure it's big enough to encompass the entire scene, pulling down the height if I need just a little bit. I'll make sure that this sits roughly down at ground level. What we can see here, if I just hit play, is that I've got a bunch of, well, falling pluses, we'll call them. They're actually ticks, as we care more about the motion than the actual look when there's enough particles, like rain or snow. Here's how I'll make this work then. I'll press 6 to access Particle View. In here, what it shows is a PF Source 1 that I just created. There's Event 01, and there's birth, position, speed, rotation, shape, and display. What I'll do is first look at the birth by clicking on it. I'll change over the emission to a rate, and put this up to maybe 100. Then I'll take the emit stop, which is in frames, out to 144, so it's constantly emitting particles in my scene. Then I'll change speed, instead of along the arrow giving me falling snow or rain, to random 3D, so they buzz around. I'll make sure that the rotation is also random 3D, and click New on the seed. This is a way of randomizing that motion. Anytime in a particle system you have a seed or a random seed, click New to generate it from a different point. Now I'm going to make the shape, and really what I want are small flying things. So I'll take them and drop down under 3D and choose Sphere, 20 sides. I'll take the size down to maybe 1, so they're really just little dots basically. In the display then, we've got different ways of showing it. Like I said, we care about the motion a lot, more so than the look, as we get it right. I'll leave it as ticks for now, and check it out from my camera view. I'll press C in the view, and choose Camera 1. Move the particle view out of the way and hit play. We've got lots of little ticks buzzing around. Gives the idea of stuff in the forest. I'll switch the display over here from ticks into geometry and see how this looks. And there's some of those little spheres. As I go back and play it again, we can see little things buzzing around the scene. It'll get the idea of flying things. If we wanted to, we could actually bring in a modeled and animated insect, but that may be overkill for what we're after. I'll tweak the speed a little bit, slowing them down, so instead of racing around, they zip around at a more leisurely pace. I'll take this speed down to 120, let's say, and put in a variation. Anytime we have a chance in particles to put in a variation, we should. I'll make this 47.8 because it sounds neat. Really, it's that anywhere we can vary, we should. So around that 120, it swings 47.8 in either direction. Some are fast and some are slow. And again, with seed, I'll always hit New. I'll close my particle system and check this out. I'll go back to the beginning, hit the play button, and there's lots of little things buzzing around in my scene. Now they need a material. I'll press 6 to go back to the particle view once more, and there's the events I can drag in. There's conditions, or events in blue, such as materials, position, and so forth, and tests here in yellow, which will return an output to do something if we need. In this case, we don't really care. They just have to buzz around. So I'll pick Material Static and drag it right here into the event. Right between Shape and Display is fine. Then I'll click on the material, and where it says Assign Material, I'll click on the bar that says None. I'm going to choose an Arc and Design, and I'll double-click on it. It's called Material 0, and I'll pull up my material editor to edit this by pressing M. Here in this material editor, down in the lower left under Scene Materials is Material 0. I'll select it, double-click on it, And there's that material. I'll double click on the test sphere and press H to minimize those properties. Now with the properties available, what I'm going to do is just black this out, right-clicking on reflectivity and glossiness and choosing the color and just swinging that value way into deep gray, maybe adding in a little bit of a bronze and making sure that they're very dark. So really what I've got are small, flying, matte, bronze, almost black spheres. I'll try a quick test render, making sure I back up and play again. We can just barely see them, but somewhere out there are small little blips in the scene. I'll press render and see what it looks like. As we can see here as my render finishes, there's some dots flying around, and those are my particles. They'll have just enough motion to make it look like there's things buzzing around in the air. With the render done, I can see I've got some dots out here, and once they blur a bit, they'll look just fine. We can use this technique of bringing a scene to life with ambient animation of, well, flying stuff. It doesn't have to be necessarily photoreal models of insects, as much as things flying around in the sun. And it'll really bring the scene that's otherwise static to life as we move our cameras through.